We have an unbelievable video for you tonight. It is Saturday night. I hope you have a great week. The Jewish week starts tonight, and we're entering into the month of Elul, which is the month of calculations. When we calculate what we've done wrong the past year, we don't just spend one day on a New Year's resolution, which fades away in a couple of weeks. We spend an entire month in which we tackle everything that we've been through the past year and what we can improve on and what we resolve to do the next year. But let's get on to the topic of this video, which is the fact that when 50 Shades of Grey came out, sold 15 million copies as a book and became a box office hit for months in the movie theaters, and we men are watching this tough guy, bend over this young innocent woman and flog her mercilessly. And she's enjoying it, and the women are all enjoying it, and we're like, what the hell is going on? I couldn't get away with this with my wife in a million years. If I tried this on my wife, she would call the cops. So what is going on with 50 Shades of Grey, and why did it sell 15 million copies, and what does it have to do with God, and how can understanding this whole confusing mess save your marriage and save marriage in general? I believe this video will save marriages all across the world millions of times over if people just pay attention to the message that I'm bringing across to you here, because it is truly groundbreaking. It's never been brought across in this way quite before. So marriage as it stands now, we all know is a failure. It only works and lasts like half the time, and the other half of the time it gets more and more boring as time goes on. It gets duller and duller. Usually, that's the case. There are exceptions. There are some exceptional marriages out there, which is great. But usually, it's more and more dull, or it ends in divorce. Then a book like 50 Shades comes out. Whipping, flogging, chains, handcuffs. But it shouldn't be that surprising that women like this movie or like reading this book, because the number one category on Amazon for books is literotica, in which masculine men are dominating over feminine women, and women have been reading books like this for as long as books have been in print. And I don't want to make enemies with the feminists, or I don't want to make enemies with anybody, but the truth is that feminism has a lot to do with the breakdown in marriage and why a book like 50 Shades is so popular. So let me break this down for you. If you're doing a tango, you're doing a dance, a man and a woman, what happens if both parties decide to be equal? What would happen to that dance? It would come to a screeching halt. It would go nowhere. And like my parents, who did not have still do not have a very good marriage, they were once in a boat, and they wanted to sail together, and it was a paddle boat, and they started to row, and they just went in circles and circles and circles. They never got anywhere because they were equal. Nobody was leading and nobody was following, so therefore the boat went nowhere, the dance goes nowhere. And with feminism, which brought in the idea of equality between the man and the woman, it doesn't go anywhere. The marriages began to fail, more and more and more and more fighting, more unhappiness. The woman actually likes when the man leads, but she also wants to lead in other areas of life. So what are we supposed to do with that? It's complicated, right? So I think the secret to all of this confusion is found in a video of two young girls, Carolina and Barvina, and that I saw. Somebody happened to send it to me, and it was a game in which one of them said the other one's going to have to say yes to everything that the other one says for 24 hours. And then the next day they switched it around, and the other one said they're going to say yes to the one that everything that the other person says for 24 hours. And it was a fun, really interesting video, a fun game for both of them, in which one is saying yes to everything the other one says. It has to be innocent, can't be abusive, it can't be demeaning, but within the bounds of what's normal. saying yes to absolutely everything that the other person says was actually fun. It was actually really interesting. They actually really enjoyed it. Even though one was dominant totally and the other one was totally submissive, they really, really enjoyed it. And I thought, what if we could just do that for marriage? What if we could take a couple that's fighting and we said, instead of fighting for just one day, just do everything that the husband says, or to the wife, or to the husband, do everything that the wife says for a whole entire day. What would happen is you would start having fun. Immediately, all the tension would be gone, and you would start having fun with your life. You start having fun with your marriage, telling each other different things to do, and you do it. And you know that the next day, it's going to be you having to do everything that they say, so you're going to, not be too cruel in your requests because you know that it's coming back at you the next day. So what I suggest, if you're married, is that you try to do this for a day. You try to give one person the power 100% and the other person none of the power. And then the next day, switch it around and give the other one 100% and the other one 0%. And become in a dominant and submissive marriage instead of an equalized marriage. And see how that feels. See if that doesn't feel more interesting, exciting, sexy. I mean, just imagine the possibilities in the bedroom with a dominant submissive situation where the man is being dominant and the woman is being totally submissive, or the woman is being totally submissive and the woman is being totally dominant, or the man is being totally dominant. It turns me on just talking about it. Just the whole idea of a totally dominant and submissive situation where everybody gets a chance to be dominant and everybody gets a chance to be submissive. Because this is really the key. We want a leader, we want a follower. We want a dominant, we want a submissive. That's what's sexy, that's what's real, that's what's awesome, that's what works. That's what gets the boat moving. That's what gets the dance going properly. You need a dominant and a submissive. But nobody wants to be dominated all the time. So they want to dominate sometimes and not all the time. And there are certain areas of life in which the woman prefers to dominate and the man should have no say in it. And there are certain areas of life where the man should dominate and the woman should have no say in it. But the important thing is that someone always has the last say. You always know who has the ball. You always know who is the one who has the last say in the issue. So once you've played this game for 2 days and you've done the 24 hours, dom, sub, in the bedroom, outside the bedroom, everything in life, you can then go through your life in as detailed a manner as possible and divide up the power in your relationship. So someone has the power over the making of the bed. They're in charge of that and nobody can complain about it. Someone is in charge of picking out movies and nobody can complain about it. They're in charge this day or you're in charge that day and nobody can complain about it whatsoever when that person is in charge. Someone will dominate in the realm of discretionary spending and nobody can say what you can do about it. Or maybe the next day you switch it off and the other person's in charge of discretionary spending and you can't say anything about it. Each one has the power, always knowing that the power will shift to the other person at some point. So you're going to want to be kind and giving if you want them to be kind and giving back to you when they have the power. This is really what turns women on. This is the reason why they like 50 Shades of Grey, why they read literotica, why they fantasize about Fabio, the guy with muscles, quietly laying the young woman on the bed, because he has the muscles and he doesn't use it. The sexiest thing for a woman, and it's the sexiest thing for a man too, is the partner having all the power and using it only to give to the other person. Not giving it in a subservient way, not giving it in an equal way, but giving it as the dominant person who has all the power and wants to use that power to give to the other person. They want to be kind anyway. Even though they could be cruel, they want to be kind. It's kind of like karate. Once you know it, you have all the power once you know karate, but you don't use it. You don't use it unless you really need it. So this is really the secret behind 50 Shades, and we'll get into how it connects with God, because a marriage without God is really, it's not a healthy thing. You need the unity of God in your marriage as well. But the basic concept, I think, by now is clear. You need a dominant, you need a submissive, but you need to switch off at times so that nobody feels like they're being submissive too much and nobody's being dominant too much, and you have to divide your life into different areas where each one dominates for a certain period of time. And that's how a marriage works and how it becomes totally sexy and totally awesome. There's another concept which is called the third party. When the Jewish people get married, they get married under a canopy, and that represents the third party. If there's ever a fight, like if whatever I just explained does not work out at any point, there has to be someone who makes the decision other than you two. You two cannot be the ones to make the decision. That will only lead to fighting. There has to be a third party. It could be a friend. If it's a therapist, it's going to cost a lot of money. If it's a rabbi, it's a priest, that's cheaper. But it could even be just a friend that you both trust, and you pay them $20 a month just to resolve any disputes that come up. That person's job is to just come up with a decision when there's a dispute. So if there's a fighting going on between the husband and the wife, pick up the phone, you call that friend, and you say, she says this, I say this, just tell us who's right. And it doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter if it's a good decision or a bad decision. It doesn't even have to be an extremely wise friend. It doesn't have to be an extremely wise person at all. It just needs to be someone who will just make a decision, any decision. Just side with him or side with her. Let's just hear a decision one way or the other so we can end the fight and get on with the passion and the love. This is really the whole idea behind a husband being a king and a woman being a queen, because the king has full power. The queen has full power, but they have it each in their own domains. So you have to create domains in your marriage in which someone has the ultimate power and the other one has no power. Really, you will cooperate because you want to give to each other, and you also know that in the next issue, you're going to be the one who's subservient, so you better be pretty kind about it. You better not become too corrupt in your power and take things too far for the other person, because in just a moment, there's going to come another issue down the pike where you're going to be the one that's subservient. You're going to be the one that has to do what the other one wants. So you grow this mutual respect and this mutual trust when you continue to dominate in a way that is that of a leader. Not dominating, but leading. Like you lead in a dance, like you lead when you're rowing a boat. But the main thing is to bring God into your marriage, because God is unity. And you want to have that focus on unity, that your goal is to become, not to dominate each other, but to become one with each other. Through this unity of opposites, you create a greater unity than you had before. So actually, by going to these extremes, going to this dom-sub relationship, you reveal a unity that you have between each other that you never had before. When you do this kind of marriage, you will start to have feelings for each other like you never had before in your life. And your marriage, to sustain itself and to not peter out, it has to have a purpose. And your purpose has to be to reveal God, to reveal unity in this world, to reveal the unity between each other, and let that branch out and teach this to other people, and let other people know about unity and the union of opposites. And that is revealing godliness in this world. And you do that truly through acts of goodness and kindness. When you actually act on behalf of each other as human beings in acts of goodness and kindness, that unity is revealed, that unity is expressed. And when unity is your goal in your marriage will always last forever. God bless.